one of the key things that will allow us to now thrive, during this period is that we've been very careful on having a solid 24-month cash flow and budget in place, because the government funding that's about to stop is going to put most businesses in a lot of trouble, particularly recruitment. We lost a third of the industry already due to COVID. We've seen some new businesses pop up, but if people aren't planned and they don't have a cash flow or a finance solution, then they're going to need one.
So this 24-month cash flow thing that you've implemented, can you describe how we could, for example, implement that and the positive effect it has on you?
Sure. So, given the situation with COVID and the fact that we're going to have to pay back tax debt and have a tax plan, and I'm using 24 months because that's a good period of time where you can actually have a recovery of your business, right? Specifically for us, it's essential that we spread it over that period of time. It also coincides with the amount of time that the government's allowing you to put a tax plan in place. So I believe you can do a tax plan for 12 months, which is interest free, and then if you spread it over 24 months, there's an interest charge in that. But what we've done is we've broken down exactly every cost within our business, including our tax plan and any other cost there, including miscellaneous costs that you think might occur. And then we've put in our projected sales figures and forecasts. So we know exactly what we have to achieve financially in order to pay off our debt. Now, if you don't do the sales figures you want to achieve, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world, but your break even essentially goes up. So because you're not now breaking even just on your normal operational expenses and your staff costs, etc. You've got this extra tax debt that you've got. And if companies don't have this in place, go to your accountant and ask them, what's the update on the government relief plan? Have we got a tax plan in place? When does the JobKeepers end? We're already down to only $1,000 a fortnight, and in March it completely stops. Have they forecasted that or planned that in what they're doing? But I would absolutely encourage anyone to get advice from an accountant.
And basically just to have a 24-month tax plan. So understand the cost of your business, including the repayment of any taxes or any additional costs that have come because of COVID.
When you're scaling, you're not making profit.
Yeah. Because your money is going towards growth.
And it's high risk. But it's very difficult to maintain a sort of environment and a culture and one sort of core vision and mission. Once you get to a certain size, you're not, as the managing director, CEO, business owner, whatever it is, you don't necessarily determine the environment. The environment almost starts to determine you, and you get these little pockets of cultures, right? And what I did, rightly or wrongly, to try and combat that was I set up multiple businesses. So rather than have one sort of larger company, I had multiple companies that had their own brand, own specialization, and where I could give the person running that business an equity stake or a profit share within those organizations. And in some cases it worked well, in some cases it didn't. So it's hard to tell. But the most important thing if you're scaling is to have a plan and a vision and a goal. And to have that focus and plan, because a lot of the time you're just scaling for the sake of it. And what is the outcome? What are you trying to do? Is it to have a certain profit outcome? Is it to have a certain environmental outcome, or is it to better people's lives? What is it? Because if you don't have that vision, you're just going to keep going.
I can relate to that, because when we scaled the first time to Melbourne, our reason was, I want a place in Melbourne. It wasn't.
Well, that's the motivation. Why not?
Yeah, but it wasn't. It's not a good enough reason. I also want a place now in Adelaide and Perth, but I'm not doing it yet.
Well, you know what? If that's why not? I mean,
No, I think it should be okay. What's the reason? Okay, we want to produce another great profitable business out of Melbourne, so we want to double our profits. But okay, are we capable of doing that yet? Is the next question. Because what does Sydney look like? We're using Cubs as an example. What does Sydney look like? Is it profitable? Yeah, okay, it's profitable. But is the business a real business yet at that point? Do we understand it? Do we have our operations perfect? Do we have our key KPIs and measurement and measures in place to ensure that we know if this company is healthy? Do we have a team of which, if I left, would sustain? The question then goes, what's the reason for scaling? I think is question one. The second question is, are we ready to scale?
Yeah, and what does it look like once you have?
Yeah.
And is that worth it?
One thing that I really want to ask, I'd be silly not to ask actually, is just tips on recruitment as well.
Couple of things. First thing, don't be afraid of recruitment consultancies or agencies. Don't be afraid of them. You don't have to use a recruiter, but use that as part of your selection process and pick the best candidate that can make you money. Right? I think that we of course, with the cost, the return on your investment can be huge. It can also be a failure in some cases. But don't exclude it, and I say have it as part of your process. Most of the multinationals will have a third of their recruitment budget assigned to agencies.
You're saying like use LinkedIn, use Seek or whatever you do, use Facebook ads or whatever you want, but also use a recruiter.
Secondly, don't spread yourself too thin in regards to agencies. you're best to pick one or maybe two agencies. I would suggest one that is a specialist in your space that has proven, tried and tested, or you've gone through a process with. But give them the chance to guarantee a return on their investment. The problem that companies have, businesses have when they're using agencies, they think if they use a number of agencies, they have more resources out there sourcing candidates. But what you actually have is a number of less committed consultants that cannot guarantee a return on their investment. So they're not going to give you the best service. They can't afford to give you the
But
best.
how does a consultant guarantee return on the investment?
Well, they get exclusivity from their clients. So if I was recruiting for you, I'd be saying, look, I don't want total exclusivity where you can't source your own candidates, but I would want to be the only recruiter that you use for a period of time, right? And therefore, my chance of success are heightened. So what we have to do in recruitment is you have to look at the live projects you're working, and you have to grade them. So, I do it as simply as A, B, C. So A is my exclusive roles, B is my highly engaged contingency, and C is where they might be using a number of agencies. Mm-hmm. And those C roles will put candidates forward as and when they come to us, right? Or as we find them on our database.
Very interesting.
But we'll search. So it's worth doing the exclusivity with a trusted partner.
For business owners, people like myself, the tip there is, okay, you might be thinking that you're going to be seeing more candidates. It's going to be better to use more agencies. But really, you're being put to the bottom of the importance list in the agency. Yeah. You may as well be at the top of the list. And if that agency can't find you someone, maybe you set a time frame that they can work in. If they don't find anyone in that time frame, select someone else another agency.
And you've got nothing to lose there. And I think you give commitment, you get commitment. And I think 4 weeks is a normal standard amount of time. However, if it's urgent, you might reduce it slightly, but give them a crack and assess them as they go. The other tip would be that you should get a candidate in a second or final interview stage to do some sort of presentation, whether it be a sales presentation, a sales plan, or a business plan, depending on the role, or a marketing plan. So they actually have a chance to demonstrate their understanding of your business, their understanding of what the role represents, and their understanding of what they would do in this situation, particularly in the first 3 to 6 months. That is the most amazing tool that we use. And what you find is you actually remove 50% of your candidates just doing this process because they're not engaged enough to do it.
To even do it in the first place.
Guess what? If they can't do it now, what are they going to do when they start in your company? So they would be the three things that I would.
And if they're not bothered to do it, then they're not that excited about joining your company either.
Exactly.